Hello and welcome. My name is Amy Christian, and I am here helping out Mary today. And I just wanted to say welcome to all of you. We are very excited about this project and being able to celebrate it. So the Janesville Area Story project began in 2019 with a project mission to share and inspire stories of people who had contributed in big and small ways to the history of Janesville, Wisconsin, and the surrounding areas. Teresa Nguyen interviewed Rock County residents and posted stories on the Janesville Area Stories website. Tess has already been known in Janesville's art and music world, where she had been involved in various projects, productions, and performances. She co-produced and wrote 5 productions over the course of 7 years and contributes her time to several other organizations of and for the arts. Tess currently works at the Gathering Place in Milton, and I want to turn it over to Tess.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. As she said, I started Janesville Area Stories in 2019. First off, thank you, everyone, for being here today. I was a little nervous that no one would show up. I didn't make reminder calls. I'm so used to doing that at the Gathering Place, make reminder calls. It was a freelance writing business. Some people used to think I worked for the Gazette. The answer was no, and they were wondering, well, what is this? And I was hired to do stories. People would say, could you, I want you to do a story of my grandmother, or, could you do one of our business, this or that? But I did a lot of pro bono stuff too. But I just felt it was important to share these stories, especially a nonprofit that maybe couldn't afford to hire a story done, but whose story needed to be told or shared. And I'll get to an interesting one later, how I was doing a story on an individual who was very connected to a well-known business in town, and there wasn't a thing about the business anywhere that I could find. And I'll tell you why. I was really glad I did that story. So I really believe these things, that storytelling is how we survive. When there's no feed, the story feeds something. It feeds the spirit, the imagination. I can't imagine life without stories. Stories from my parents, my culture, stories from other people's parents, their culture. That's how we learn from each other. And that's how that's the best way. That's why literature is so important. It connects us heart to heart. And I really learned so much in this job, because it wasn't so much that I was sharing stories, I was learning as I went, and I was just sort of the facilitator of being able to let you all see them too, and see what I was seeing. And so I decided to do individual, nonprofit, business, community stories, and then, of course, with multimedia stuff, I went a little crazy sometimes with other types of projects. So, I said to Edna, my friend Edna, that she said to me today, I was your guinea pig. I said, yes, you were, because she was my first story, and I wasn't sure how I wanted to organize them, but I decided I'm just going to go in order from the first one to the end. And so that's how I did that. But I did have, of course, individual stories, and then I would put those in order. And when I would do business stories, I put those in order of when I did them. So they're basically chronological, not alphabetical. So here are a few more interesting people. I'm not going to go into all the different stories because we would have to be here 5 years. But I just want to give you an overview of the different people. And it was really important for me, too, to include diverse stories of people that you might not know their story. You might not talk to them at the cafe, but you're going to learn about them through my work. So, and including some Janesville greats, such as like the Lovejoy family. I did a whole thing on women in Rock County who have been prominent women all throughout history. So they weren't just stories of people that you and I necessarily know. So some of the people are here, like Yuri Rashkin. Where'd you go? There you are. And some of our friends have passed, and that really surprised me when I started going through my list of how many people have passed that I was able to interview. So at the end of our presentation today, I'll have a little 5-minute tribute video as well. So here we had more individuals, people who traveled to Europe to follow in their dad's footsteps, to, his World War II footsteps. Someone who founded the Community Foundation, a Latino activist, Lavinia Goodall, who was our first female attorney, and who fought for the right of a woman to argue in court. And that was a very brave thing to do in her time. So these are just snippets. I don't have all the businesses that, I didn't list everything for businesses, nonprofits, community stories, but these were just some that I could show you. Doty Manufacturing, we have a descendant here, Camilla Owen. Jack's Custom Printing, I did a big story on those guys. The 175th anniversary of Trinity Church was a wonderful thing to see that the community of that church is just really strong and beautiful. Then COVID came and I was thinking, what am I doing? Because I can't go out and interview people. We were stuck at home. So that's when I learned how to use Zoom and how to interview people on Zoom, which wasn't the same. I was doing interviews on the phone, which also wasn't the same. You can't read body language as well. People don't seem as comfortable on the screen to ad lib and go in deeper to conversation like we do when we're face to face. So that was interesting, but I was able to get a story on the healthcare and what was really happening inside the hospitals and clinics. And it was a trick because the people who I interviewed were nervous about talking about the problems and the issues they were having in the hospitals that were so extremely full and congested. And this was new to them too. So how do we save? How do we choose who goes on a ventilator? All these things. And I had to promise them that I would use an alias name and not name the clinic or the hospital. So I would just say at a local clinic, at a local hospital, I'm interviewing Juanita, who is a X-ray technician, and I would just use different names, and that worked. Then they were willing to privately talk with me and share with me the frustrations and what was going on, and it was very eye-opening. And then, of course, that same year we had the George Floyd incident, and we had a lot of emotion over that issue. And I wanted to interview mainly African-American people to get their viewpoint, because we were hearing everyone's viewpoint, but local people, local African-American people who had varying opinions. They didn't all have the same opinion, but it was very interesting. So sometimes I share a story just to educate, so we feel more educated about topics and things. So here are some other fun ones. I wrote a poem for, that's Todd Kimball and his buddy being Santa and the Grinch. So that one was a fun thing to do in December. I had other types of stories, including local love stories. We have one of the couples here, the Carforas. So I did little mini social media stories. I have not passed all those along to Mary, but it would just be way too many books, probably. A lot of work. Skelly's Farm, some familiar things here. The Arts Hall of Fame. So now we're into 2024. So at the end of 2024, my son was getting married overseas. I knew I would be taking this big, long break. It just felt, the timing felt right for change. And I was thinking, I think I want to do something different, but I don't want to let go of the stories. I don't want them to just disappear into nothingness. And I decided to call Mary and say, would you guys be interested in having all of these if I put them on PDF and give you all the files? And she said yes. It was like a wedding proposal. I was like, yay. It was so great. I couldn't believe it. Like it was mentioned earlier, we did the Tales of series during this time, even before I started Janesville Area Stories, helping to bring local stories to life on the stage. And I had some wonderful partners in these productions. Of course, JATVMedia Services. Alan Luckett was my camera buddy and production man for all the video work, and his staff, Tina and Booyar. And then Hedberg Public Library, Michelle Dennis here was a co-writer with me. We had a little contribution from Jamie Swenson from the library, as well as Frank Schultz, who is here, co-writing both the Tales of Adventure and Tales of Our Heritage with me. So these were really fun to do because we had acting, singing, dancing, videos, just the whole works at the Janesville Performing Arts Center, and they were all local stories of these different topics. And we could have done probably 10 years worth of Tales of Our Farms because we barely touched on the agriculture of Rock County. We focused a lot on the La Prairie Township, but then you'd get the people in Evansville like, hey, what about us? And Stoughton or down over in Clinton and over in Orfordville, and just a lot going on in the agriculture community. So remember this, your life has purpose. Your story is important. They all are. People would say to me, oh, who wants to hear about me or my story? I don't think it's interesting. But they all are. Everyone, all of you have experiences that are uniquely your own. And they are important. They could influence others. They can be, you could be a beacon of hope in some way that you don't really realize. Your dreams count. Your voice matters, no matter who you are. And you were born to make an impact. So thank you for being part of the journey. Like I said, thanks to Mary Buelow for all of her work to help preserve these stories for future generations, because it's history. Your stories are history. And they're great because of who you are and what you've gone through. That's why they're great. And I was really honored to be a part of all of that. So thank you. Take it away, Mary.
Okay, so as Tess was saying, she called and said she was closing down the website. And I thought, oh no, because there's so many stories there and there's so much history and a lot of history in the making, like the COVID story and the Black Lives Matter. And I was like, I don't want to lose that now that it's been gathered. And then Tess asked if Hedberg could provide a home. And I really wanted to say yes immediately, but I have to step back and think from the perspective of the library. And we do get offered materials for the Janesville Room all the time. And they all have great historical value. And we have learned the hard way, and we have reminders that if we say yes to something, but we don't have the resources to process it and make it ready to put it out for the public, it's just going to sit in our office and collect dust. And so that doesn't really do anybody any good. and certainly doesn't do me good because it means my desk is very crowded. So when Tess offered the stories to Hedberg, I had to run through my head and ask a few key questions. The first one is, does it fit our purpose? And the second one is, will we use it and how? And so the first one, that's easy. We have this Janesville room, which the whole purpose of the room, it's devoted to historical information documenting Janesville's history, culture, and people. Janesville Area Stories fits right into that definition. And when I was looking through the stories and remembering the stories, I can just see future librarians getting questions of, oh, those murals downtown, can you tell me who did it and when they were painted? And so we have this resource that we can look up and get a bit of a story about that. Or the Glory of the Eagle sculpture, when was that put in? And that house, there's this house, I just can see some guy, 30-something, 20 years from now saying there's this house that used to be all decked out for Halloween every year, and they had skeletons all over the place and a carousel, and it was really cool. And that's the kind of thing that it's really hard to find through traditional history books, even local history. And I just, from experience, we're going to get asked that, trust me. We're also going to get asked questions. We do get asked questions about Janesville residents from decades past. Sometimes it's family members who are asking about their grandparents, their great-grandparents, some great-great uncle or cousin, and sometimes they're asking about their teacher. They remember their teacher from childhood and want to know what happened and know more about that teacher that was so special. They want to know about other people that they've heard about who were important in this community. And they want to come in. They want to come in, see a picture, find a little information, get a sense of that person's character, and the interviews are perfect for that. So the purpose question, easy. Question number 1, yes, we should keep it. But question number 2 is the hard one. It's always the hard one because our space is limited, our resources, our staff resources are limited. And so I have to ask myself if this is really something we can take on. Can we store it? Can we maintain it? And how will people find the information in it? So as it currently stands, or stood at the time, this was a digital resource. And if it's digital, we do not have, as the library, we do not have the server space or the computer specialist to maintain a digital archive. And so if you look on our local history site on our webpage, we have tons of local history stuff, but if you look carefully, we don't host any of it. We're linking to it. And since Tess was retiring the website, we couldn't link to it anymore. So we did need to have it in a print format. And then next question, if it's print, is it something that we call shelf ready? That means that I can pick it up, we can put some labels and a call number on it, and I can walk it into the Janesville room and put it on the shelf. This was not print ready. So thinking about how to make it print ready, we would have to take it from web format, put it in PDFs, print those pages, put those pages in page protectors so they last more than the first viewing, number the pages, how we're going to organize and arrange it and put it in the binders, and then create documentation so we could put it in the library catalog. Then we can put on the call number and the barcode and put it out on the shelf. And that does take work. I didn't know it wasn't all on me. Tess certainly helped. She said, oh yes, I can definitely put it in PDF format. I need to learn how, but I can do it. And our wonderful library volunteers also helped with the printing and the page protectors and and getting it in the binders. And the technical service staff putting it in the catalog, doing all those labels.
The hardest part was knowing that the printed PDF was not as pretty as the web page.
No.
Just, it didn't lay out the same, it didn't look as inviting, I couldn't use all the same clip art and everything. I was just like, okay.
Yes.
But it's
But
the information that's important.
it's information, and trust me, it's better to print off a PDF, even a slightly messy one, than to try and print off a website. Have you ever done that where it just goes on and no? So I'm sitting here thinking, I really want to keep this information, and it's really, it can be done, but I had one last question. To identify, should we do it, is can we make it so people will use it? So in a fancy way of saying that is it discoverable? So if I walk into the Janesville room and I'm looking for information on Billy Bob Gran, how will I get from standing in the middle of the Janesville room to the interview that Tess did on the shelf? Everyone in this room and many other people in this community know about Janesville Area Stories. We've now advertised that it's in the Janesville room, and some of you know that Tess did an interview of Billy Bob. Will that be true 10 years from now? What about 50 years from now? So I work in the Janesville room, and I'm constantly finding exciting things, and I think, oh, this resource would have been perfect for that question I got 3 years ago. And I didn't use it because I didn't know it was there, because we didn't have any way to connect it when I was standing at the desk searching the catalog or some of our other tools. So if we have it but it's not used, even if it's on the shelf, it's another dust collector. It's not as bad as when it's sitting on my desk in the office, but it's still not great. So if I'm going through, the royal I, the all of us are going through the work to make it this item shelf ready, I want to make sure people will use it, and that means creating finding aids. And so a lot of you got a chance to look at the books over on the table. So with the table of contents listing each of the stories, so you can browse through the list of the stories. But then also there is a subject index. So it's not every single concept and person who's mentioned in the stories, but some of them that are highlighted, but they're not the main story. Or they're mentioned, a story like the Candid Conversations mentions several people in a single story. So there is a subject index where you can look up and say, oh, the 9/11 memorial? Okay, that's the story about the beam from the World Trade Center that's down in the Fireman's Park, down the river. And so I know that I can look at story, and I can't see from this angle, I'm sorry, at story 58, and I can go over to the binder and find that. The library also has something called the Local History Database. I know some of you know it and have used it, others may have not. This is a data file that the librarians have been working on since about 1996. So we've been building it for a while, indexing the Gazette, some of the resources in the Janesville room. And we also now have put in the Janesville Area Stories. So I just typed in Paula DeRubis because I knew that there was a story about her, and she's mentioned a couple other times. And it comes up with a couple articles where she's mentioned, but also under Janesville Area Stories, Volume 3, Story 98, is the Trinity Episcopal Church, where she was one of the people interviewed. And so, so that's two different ways that people can get from, I have this idea of who I'm looking for, to actually get to a resource in the story. And the third one is they're just browsing the catalog, and they look for everything on Janesville history, and they find this set, and they go, what is that? And we have in the catalog, we do have a list of all the stories in the book. So there's several ways, and I'm sitting here in that first phone call thinking, well, we could do this, we could do that. How much time is it going to take? And I did warn Tess that it's going to take longer than anyone who does not work in a library could possibly think to take before this is done. And I'm happy we just got it done within 1 year. Yeah. But in that moment, I'm going, should we accept this donation? Can we do this? Will we use it? The answer is yes. So, as you all know, the Janesville Area Stories is now part of the Janesville Room collection, and it is here for the long haul. And it is a resource that we do expect to use for many years to come. So that is the library's tale.
How are they categorized in the books?
In the books? Okay. The stories in the books. So Tess mentioned she didn't get everything to me, but she did get 103 stories. And some of them were on the website in multiple different places. We really only had the space to print each story once. So instead of the different categories for individuals and businesses and nonprofits, community, we did just straight alphabetical order. So if it was a name, like Edna, we did go by your last name. But for everything else, if it was just a title of a story like the Riverside Park, it's under R for Riverside Park. And so those, if you're just looking down the list of the stories, they are in alphabetical order. But then right after that, A to Z, or A to however, didn't quite make Z, then there is that subject index where if someone is interviewed and it's pretty prominent, but they didn't have their own name in that story, so the subject index picks up more people and more topics. So I'm wondering if there are any more questions. This is a good time to take a break to ask questions either of me or of Tess before we move on to the next part of our program.
Another question?
Absolutely. We didn't.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm first off, I'm thrilled. I got emotional when I saw those books, like, oh my gosh, this really happened. And I'm so impressed that it didn't take that long, that you somehow organized everything the way you did. But my question goes to, if someone were to come in and say they want to print a story, is that allowed, and how would they go about that?
Absolutely. We have a lot of materials in the Janesville Room that are in binders like that. The simplest way is to slip out the pages, make a photocopy, and put the pages back in. I do still have those PDFs, so if somehow they get back in the wrong place, we can reprint them. Or if someone would really rather have a story emailed to you, then we can email it, since it is in PDF format. That's pretty simple. Yes.
Show them what you did. So Burdett took his story. Is this it? And he,
Burdett took his story and he went to Jack's custom printing with it. Was it Jack's? I thought it was, right? And he made it into his own book that he was able to send to family members for Christmas one year of his life story. So I thought that was pretty neat that he took the time and liked it enough to do that as well. Thank you, Burdett.
Any other questions?
Okay. So if there's no more questions, we're going to move on to the final part of our presentation today. And Tess mentioned this as well. You know, as I was working on the finding aids, I recognized a lot of names of people that I know. And some I'm absolutely delighted are still around.
do the
and
tribute video 'cause
some
I
are
don't
here
have anything.
today. Thank you for coming. Others we have lost. And for them, it's especially important to preserve their stories because they're not here anymore to tell them to us. And Tess has put a slideshow together to recognize that all those who are no longer here in person, and we can use the Janesville Area Stories set to help keep them alive in our community memory. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tess. And
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, that was something that hit me too. Like I was going through the list to get in touch with people to come here, as I did all of you, and I was like, oh gosh, they're not here. Oh, and so I started highlighting the names, and it turned out to be about 15 people. Well, and a lot of the people are elderly anyway, and so it always was in the back of my mind, and then one by one it was happening, and I knew, some of the ones that stick out in your mind, you just know, and then others, it was like sort of jarring, remembering, oh yeah, they're also not here. So I wanted to make this to remember them all. So thanks for, it's just about a 5-minute slide. If you are a family member of any of these people, I invite you to go over to this table and take one of the white roses and a little heart that you could tie onto the rose. So I know you're here. Mary? Yeah. If there are others, I would like you, if there were other people that you were connected to, I invite you to come up and take a rose as well, because not everyone has a family member here. So come on up. Feel free. Neil, did you? Oh, okay, good. Kim? Yeah. Kat. Come on.
Touching thing you just did. That was so special.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just leave that rolling.
All right. So that concludes the program for today, but we definitely welcome you to help yourself to something to drink and something to eat, and to mingle and to talk and share your memories.